Hare Krishna. So Hare Krishna, Anuradha Koli Mataji. So Dandavas Pranam. Hare Krishna, others as well. Thank you for tuning in. So Sumedh will be here in a minute.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Gokulananda Radha Gokulananda Radhe. Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Radhe. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Jai Hari Hari Bol.
So today we'll be discussing the life and lessons from the life of His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, who sadly and unexpectedly departed yesterday in Florida. And so Haribol Anuradha Koli Mataji, Haribol Shiva Prabhu, Haribol Shashi Mataji. And so we will be delving into and understanding lessons from his life. I'd also like to point out before I start that I have not had the personal association of Maharaj so I've not had his association in person, but I have seen him at other events such as Alpanasina, talks, etc. And I'd like to mention some points that touch my heart as well. So let's begin with the Mangalacharya prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Budirayet. Jai.
So, as I said already, Bhakti Charu Maharaj sadly departed and left this world yesterday at just after 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time in America. And he had been ill for the last week or two due to the coronavirus. Although he has left, and it's been a very painful and very shocking as well to see him leave, there are a lot of lessons that we can learn, because he was a very great devotee, a very exalted devotee who dedicated his life to the mission of Srila Prabhupada and to practicing Krishna consciousness. And there is no doubt that he was an exemplary devotee, and there's so much that we can learn from him, and that he will definitely have gone to spiritual abode. There is no doubt about that. And so I'd just like to start off with a small introduction on Maharaj, and then we'll look at lessons that we can learn from his life and understand, and other things that we can understand about Maharaj. So Maharaj was actually born in 1945 in Calcutta, in India, in West Bengal, and then he went on to study chemistry. And looking at prospects abroad, he thought it would be better to go, because he was a very studious person, and a very smart student. So he thought it would be better to go to somewhere else in the West, maybe, and get a better education. So he went to pursue his study of chemistry in Germany. And at the time, along with his peers, when he would talk, all his peers would look at Indian culture, look down on Indian culture, sort of look at it with disgust. You know, it's some backwards nation with backwards philosophy, poverty stricken. What's all this nonsense that goes on there? You know, it's all useless. And Maharaj was upset by that. And so he thought, I need to stand up. I need to stand up for this injustice. I don't agree with it. But he himself, he felt, I don't know enough about my own motherland to speak about it. So then he began reading and reading more books and information. And then after he gained all this information, it ignited an interest in spirituality. Because if you look at India's history, India's always been a very spiritualized nation. And so he looks at, he saw this spirituality and thought of that aspect and started seeing that. And then when he saw it, he thought, what am I doing in here? What am I doing in Germany? Why have I forsaken such a wonderful wealth that I've had? And I've come now here to try and enjoy some material opulence. And so he thought, okay, I need a guide. I need a guru. I need someone who can guide me on the spiritual path, someone who can take me further, someone who can make me more devotional and more spiritual and less material. And so he went back to Nepal and I believe in the Himalayas as well. And there he visited many ashrams of many yogis and sages. And every single time he became slightly disheartened after seeing that they weren't so interested in, you know, introspecting and developing themselves as people, but rather they were interested in material gain. And they were not so sort of focused on becoming more spiritual and more better people. There wasn't that main aim. Although they might talk about it every now and then, he could see that it was not very genuine, rather hypocritical in their practices. And ashram after ashram he visited, and he could see that these are all, in a sense, bogus sages who would sometimes they'd preach one thing, and they wouldn't actually follow that, or they wouldn't even focus on spirituality. They just focus on material prosperity or material gain, or their goals were material. And so he kept on looking and looking, and then at some point he just gave up, and he went back to his hometown in Kolkata. And then he thought, and he decided that he didn't want to pursue material career or any material prosperity or anything like that at all, which is quite shocking, especially for someone in that situation who already has such highly qualified in terms of academics and education. For someone to just leave that and pursue spirituality is a massive leap, a massive change, and shows his change in heart and how genuine he was. And so he began, so he went back to Kolkata and he stayed there. And somehow or other, he found this book, The Nectar of Devotion by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. And he saw this book and he read this book. And as he started reading, all of his doubts and thoughts were getting clarified. And he realized that through that book that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, someone who has a personal feature, has a personal form. And he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the Lord. And it taught him a lot, because although he had been born with that background, he had heard of Lord Krishna. He never looked at Lord Krishna necessarily as God. And so he became very attracted to this book, and he was very inclined, and he wanted to meet the author of this book. And so after some time, he ended up becoming part of the Krishna conscious movement in Mayapur. In 1976, he actually joined Mayapur temple as a brahmachari. His name was Bhakti Kishore. His name is Kishore at that time. And he joined as Bhakti Kishore in 1976 in Mayapur. And there he would serve the devotees, serve the congregation. At that time, he served in the developing and the building. One of the first services he actually undertook was in the building of the Mayapur, current existing Mayapur temple, that was partially already built, and he was helping in the extension of the temple at the time. And that's where it all began. And then after this, he got Srila Prabhupada's association, a very close association. Srila Prabhupada, in their first meeting, when Srila Prabhupada recognized that he's Bengali, Srila Prabhupada instructed him that you must translate these books in Bengali. And not only that did he undertake that task, he also was very close to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada used to teach him how to cook various dishes in the kitchen, and how to. So he was Prabhupada's cook for some time as well, and then he was also in very close association with Srila Prabhupada. He took his first and second initiation at the same time, and I can't remember. I don't know what his initiated name was, but then 3 months after that, he took his sannyas initiation as well, and took up the renounced order of life at a very young age at the time. I believe he was just not in his 30s yet, late 20s, when he took his sannyasi initiation. And he was also very fortunate enough to serve Srila Prabhupada during Srila Prabhupada's last final months, along with Tamal Krishna Goswami. He also was able to serve Srila Prabhupada, and all the guests that would come to meet Srila Prabhupada, he was able to serve them as well. And so during that period of time, he got only not the association of the great devotee like Srila Prabhupada, but also the other great devotees that used to come and meet Srila Prabhupada. And with Prabhupada's association and instructions, this had a massive impact on him for the rest of his life. And during that time, he served with great conviction and great devotion, and took full care of Srila Prabhupada. And then not only while Prabhupada was alive was he a great devotee, but then after Srila Prabhupada also departed from this world, he carried on in serving Krishna consciousness. And that's something that we can learn from the life of Maharaj, which is that he was always thinking of how he can serve the Lord and his devotees, and always thinking, how can I propagate this Krishna conscious movement? How can I be more Krishna conscious? And so he took up the tasks of translating these books. He wrote some books himself. Then also he would also travel and preach, travel throughout not only India, but then started traveling throughout various other countries and start preaching. He also what's this film? He also made a film in the honor of Prabhupada about the life of Srila Prabhupada, and a lot of you may have seen or heard of it at least. It's still available on YouTube, I believe, but it's a whole massive series of movies. Basically, it's a massive series, like a Netflix series almost, but it's just long episodes that all go into detail about the life and story of Srila Prabhupada, and those will definitely be immortalized, especially in the history of ISKCON, because everyone at some point that's had to look into Prabhupada's history or background would have seen those films or at least heard about them. And there's a lot of time and effort that has gone into that as well. Not only that, he's also responsible for then building this temple in Ujjain, in Ujjain in India today, where he not only built the temple, but also built up the devotee community there. And he's like the heart and foundation of that temple today. And so we can see that not only that, he's throughout his life, he has only served the Lord, and he imbibed the qualities that the devotee should imbibe. And that's what we can learn from him. And we'll be looking at that as well today. And so this, although this passing away of Maharaj might seem slightly externally, in a sense, painful and unnecessary, a lot of times when we think that great devotees, people might think that great devotees, they should pass away in the holy dham like Vrindavan or Mayapur, but instead he gave up his body in ICU in America, in Florida. And so people might think, this is some people have described it like, this is a sort of inauspicious way of going. This is not an auspicious way some people might think. But I'd like to bring up the verse wait, it's from Srimad Bhagavatam. 1 minute, let's change it. So from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13 and verse 10, which I'd like to quote in this matter. Okay, so I'm reading the Sanskrit right now. Bhavad Vidya Bhagavatas Tirtha Bhutah Swayam Vibho Tirti Kurvanti Tirtani Swantah Stena Gadabrita. This is Yudhishthira Maharaj who is speaking to Vidura. And he says, "My lord, devotees like your good self are verily holy places personified. Because you carry the personality of Godhead within your heart, you turn all places into a place of pilgrimage." So because the Lord is within the heart of the devotee, and in this case, as we're talking about Maharaj, because Maharaj always thinks of the Lord and the Lord, he's always recognized that Lord is within his heart, then wherever he is, saintly people like him, that is pilgrimage itself. That itself becomes holy. That itself is like the holy dam. And so this point that's there is that this going of the devotee is never inauspicious, no matter which way they leave this body. And especially when we look at the life of Maharaj and how he's dedicated in serving not only his guru but also serving Lord Krishna, we can definitely say that he recognized that Lord is within his heart and he always served the Lord constantly. And I'd also like to go to the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 8:24, I believe it begins. 25. So Bhagavad Gita chapter 8:25. Okay, so 8:24, sorry, but onwards, and recite those verses and understand those translations as well. Agnir Jyotir Aha Shuklah Shanmasa Uttarayanam Tatra Prayata Gachanti Brahma Brahma Vido Janaha. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain the Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery god, in the light, at the auspicious moment in the day, during the fortnight of the waxing moon, or during the 6 months when the sun travels north. So these are certain ways that mystics try to arrange their death during that time, which are often seen as seemingly auspicious times to pass away. Dhumo ratristata Krishnaha Shanmasa Dakshanayanam Tatra Chandramasam Jyotir Yogi Prapya Nivartate. The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the fortnight of the waning moon, or the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, reaches the moon planet, but comes again back. Shukla Krishna Gati Hyete Jagatah Shashvate Mate Ekaya Yatyana Vrittim Anyaya Vartate Punaha. According to the Vedic opinion, there are 2 ways of passing from this world, one in light and one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back, but when one passes in darkness, he returns. So this is a sort of the science, the seeming general science of passing away of a person when one passes away.
Yeah, this is for mystics.
For yogis.
Yes, you want to explain like the mystics. What they do is they try to leave their body at a suitable time. If they are unable to leave at the suitable time, then they will go to the planet of moon and sun, and then they come back to the earth. Whereas a mystic who is able to give up their body at the prescribed time, as mentioned in the verse 24, then they would go and they would never return to this material world. These are the 2 paths that have been described in the Vedas. But Krishna now says,
in verse 20.
Yeah, Krishna says that yes, these are the 2 paths Vedas described, and then in 27.
Yogi Mushyati Kashana Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Yoga Yukto Bhava Arjuna. Although the devotees know these 2 paths, O Arjuna, They are never bewildered, therefore be always fixed in devotion.
So, say something. Yeah. So you see here, Krishna says there are two paths. The path of light. If one leaves, you know, and in the path of light, he would not come back. Whereas if one lives in the path of darkness, he would come back. But knowing these two paths, a devotee never be bewildered. He is always fixed in devotion. A devotee never thinks, "Oh, should I leave at this time? Should I leave in the morning? Should I leave in an Ekadashi day? Should I leave in Vrindavan? Should I leave afternoon?" Like that. So Krishna says that a devotee, devotee knows there are two paths, but he is just fixed in devotion. You know why? 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 Because Krishna takes care of that devotee, whatever it is, because that devotee is depending on Krishna. So Krishna fully takes care of that devotees. So he doesn't worry. Krishna has to worry. Devotee need not to worry about it.
This is elaborated again in the final verse of the 8th chapter. Vedeshu yajneshu tapassu chaiva dhaneshu yat punya phalam pratishtam atyeti tat sarvamidam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing sacrifices, undergoing austerity, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitative activity. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all of these, and at the end, he reaches the supreme eternal abode. So for a devotee, one doesn't need to look and say that, for the devotee, whatever way, time, manner they pass, they are going to go to that elevated abode because they are the devotee of the Lord and they are fully surrendered unto the Lord. The Lord takes care of that. There's that verse, O son of Kunti, declare it boldly, my devotee never perishes. I'm trying to remember something. Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhaktya pranashyati. So my devotee never perishes because the Lord takes care of the devotee. And so we can understand that the passing away of devotee is always auspicious because we can see from the verse.
Yeah. So just going back to that verse, if one becomes a devotee, yes, he gets the fruits of all other activities. So Krishna says that whatever the fruit that one can get by studying Vedas, by performing sacrifices, by undergoing austerities, by giving charity, and by pursuing philosophical discussion, etc., etc. Whatever the fruit one can get by these methods, a devotee will get automatically by not pursuing them, just by becoming a devotee. Just by becoming a devotee. Simply by performing devotional service, he attains all these.
And byproduct, rather than being the main thing.
And at the end, he reaches supreme eternal abode. So there are three paths to leave this world.
Yeah. One in light.
One in light.
One in darkness.
One in darkness. One is at any time. So any time means we should become a devotee of the Lord.
Because we can't control when we are going to pass away.
Yeah. So for a devotee, anytime path.
And so then that's also an important point to mention, that by doing devotional service, there's nothing to lose and everything to gain, as you can see from that, as we can see from that verse. And so that's one of the reasons that we should take up devotional service. And actually, I was fortunate enough to hear one of Maharaj's last couple of lectures, because just before he took his flight to America and just after he landed in New York, he gave 2 lectures about the life of Srila Prabhupada. And in one of those lectures, he talks about importance of devotional service. And he talks about, I was going to say this point later on, but I think now is the best time to mention it. He says that just give this one lifetime to the Lord. We've wasted so many lifetimes doing this and that, enjoying the sense gratification. One time we have the opportunity, we've got the human form of life, and we have Krishna consciousness. Why not just use this one life, just give to Lord Krishna? And we can use it in his service. And that's a very powerful point which he made. And I remember that class as well that he gave. It was this point is one of the points that touched me as well. And I actually, if some people in the WhatsApp, I've shared it with some people in the congregation, that how he answered that we should just utilize this one life effectively. And that's all we need to do. As long as we practice this devotional service and we use just one life, forget sense gratification. We've been doing that for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Just take up till the devotional service this one lifetime and execute it, because who knows when we'll get that chance again. And so even if for some reason you're unable to fulfill this life, and you practice devotional service, for some reason you're unable to complete it, neha vikramanashosti pratyavayo na vidyate svalpam abhyasya dharmasya trayate mahadobhaya. It saves you from the greatest type of fear. But on this progress, there is no loss or diminution. So even if you can't complete devotional service or complete all your Krishna consciousness this life, Krishna will facilitate in the next life some way that we can also carry on with our devotion. And so that's one of the points that touched me about how important devotional service is. Sometimes we take it for granted, but how important it is to practice devotional service and how effective it is, because we've seen the efficacy of the great devotees, how they practice. So we should also practice as well ourselves. And another point I'd like to mention is, so when we heard the news, we were completely shocked. We were taken aback by shock. We were unable to digest it for the first few hours. We were completely shocked because I had seen, and we had seen Maharaj give lecture to Pandav Sena just 2 weeks ago in perfect condition. He was happy, he was very joyful, he was talking perfectly. And then all of a sudden now to hear this shocking news that he had passed away, we were completely shaken. We couldn't believe it. And at that time, just to get myself rooted again and calm, I went back and I read my notes from a class that His Grace Naveen Krishna Prabhu from Bhaktivedanta Manor, Naveen Krishna Prabhu gave a class. And this class, he talks about how we can understand these sort of departures or these sort of miseries that that externally appear as miseries, how we can understand them and how we can stop ourselves from becoming so shaken and taken aback by shock, because that is the natural reaction what anyone would have in that situation. And he talked about this point that when the devotee goes through trouble, we see the external thing and we think that that devotee is going through extreme pain and misery, because that's the only thing we can see. But we don't know what's happening on the other side, what's happening internally. And the point that he used there was that Srila Prabhupada, he underwent 2 heart attacks on the Jaladuta journey as he was going to Boston. So Srila Prabhupada underwent 2 heart attacks. Now, externally, if we look from our perspective, we don't know anything. We just know that he went through 2 heart attacks. And we think, oh, Krishna, why are you being so cruel? Why have you put this misery? Or why have you done like this to Srila Prabhupada? Why is this happening? We keep on saying, why? But we don't know. And then Srila Prabhupada mentions later, I believe in one of his lectures, he mentions that I felt that the Lord was massaging my heart and he was giving me instructions. And we don't see that. We don't see that side of things at all. We just see the pain, the external pain, and we interpret that as suffering that the devotee is going through. But we don't know what Leela of the Lord that Bhakti Charu Maharaj was experiencing. We might think, going into intensive care with this ventilator and all these tubes and pipes is very painful, and it is very painful. That's true, but because we only see the external, we don't know what else Maharaj was experiencing, what Leela of the Lord Maharaj was experiencing. Maharaj is definitely no ordinary soul, and if you look, we can see from his life that he's actually a great devotee. So Lord wouldn't put the great devotee under misery like that. And the example that Naveen Krishna Prabhu gave at that time was that In one hand, the Lord takes, and we see that externally, but on the other hand, the Lord gives, and we don't get to see that side of things because that's personal between Bhakti Charu Maharaj and the Lord, and we won't get to see that. And so I felt like that was a really important point to make. And just like this poem by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he reasons ill who say that Vaishnavas die when thou art living still and sound. Vaishnavas die to live, and the living try to spread the holy name around. So the great devotees of the Lord, he says that actually he reasons ill who say that Vaishnavas die. Because when the Vaishnavas, although the great devotees, they might not be here with us in person, they're still here with us through their teaching and their lectures, and for example, lectures, classes, and instructions. And so they're still here. Although they might not be here in Vapu, or their physical presence of the body, they are here through their Vani. We can experience their presence through their Vani, their instructions and their teachings, and the things that they have said and spoken. And Vaishnavas die to live, and the living try to spread the holy name around. So the duty of the Vaishnavas, or the great devotees, is that they should try and spread the message of the Lord, spread the holy name around. And the Vaishnavas die to live. The Vaishnavas leave their body so that they can help us through their teachings and understandings and instructions. And the point that came to me as soon as I heard this was just how Mahavishnu Goswami, when he passed away, he said that although I might not be able to be here with you now, what this means is now I'm physically confined by my body. But later, after this body departs, I'll be able to be with you wherever. Because now I'm confined and I'm restricted by this body. In the same way, when these devotees pass away, they seemingly pass away, they will never pass away. They are actually immortalized because what they do, what their actions and what they do leaves that legacy. And we need to keep on remembering. If we keep on listening to these lectures, we will still get Maharaj's association through there. And finally, I'd like to mention what touched me about Maharaj. So I haven't met Maharaj personally, in person, but I have seen him many times in Pandav Sena events, because he's often given associations to the youth programs that we have here, and in places like London, for example, and he's gone on trips along with the youth. And the one thing I can say that I found out very recently is, so I remember that Maharaj gave us that class and we were talking about it in our Pandav Sena group. And that time, one of the organizers of the event actually told us a little story that we didn't know, which is when Maharaj gave his first class, he gave that first class just 30 minutes before he had to leave to the airport. At that time, he was in Bombay, and he just left to the airport just after giving class. So even though what do we do in that situation? Well, we're just 30 minutes from leaving the airport. We're packing hectically, frantically shouting, unable to be serious, unable to focus on anything. That time he was giving a very wonderful, powerful lecture about the life of Srila Prabhupada and how Srila Prabhupada exemplified the qualities and characteristics of a devotee. And then that was on the Saturday. And on the Sunday, Maharaj gave us another lecture called How Can We Overcome Death? And which he talks about the passing away of Srila Prabhupada and how the passing away of Srila Prabhupada is the passing away of a pure devotee. And in that lecture, well, I didn't know this at the time, I only found out recently, but that lecture was given just after Maharaj landed in America. And apparently it was just after he landed, he went to, I believe, his hotel room, and then, or the room he was staying in, and just 5-6 minutes he got ready and he gave us that lecture. And we weren't able to tell that he must have been so jet lagged and tired, but we couldn't tell because he looked very happy, joyful, and he gave a very powerful and inspiring lecture. And we weren't able to tell. And that just shows that Maharaj was willing to sacrifice these small things because he was so determined. And that determination is something that we can all learn from Maharaj. And he was determined to help Srila Prabhupada's movement. And so that's why he gave such wonderful lectures. And although the organizer said to him, Maharaj, we didn't know about your flight, we're sorry, you don't worry, you can leave this and you can rest and we can manage without it. He said no. He insisted, no, I'll give this lecture because it's important and it's part of my duty. So that determination, he exemplified that determination. And that's one thing that I can say, that Maharaj is very genuine and humble, and that humility shines through him. And that's what makes him very approaching and genuine and kind. And he had that determination. He had that heart. And he was willing to do anything he could to serve the Lord. And that is something that we can all take inspiration from, and we should, especially because in the end of the day, Maharaj is one of the examples of a pure devotee that we have seen in our lifetimes. And we need to try, as I've said this maybe in every single class at this point, Mahajano yena gata sapanta. I end up quoting that verse every single class somehow or other. But whatever the great devotees do, we should try and follow their path. And so we should learn that how one should have that determination in their practice of Krishna consciousness and the practice of spirituality and developing themselves as a person. So I'd like to conclude on this point. Bhakti Charu Maharaj ki jai. Finally, concluding points. We can we talked about how Maharaj was so interested in Krishna consciousness. He gave up his material academic studies, even though he was doing so well, and he had he had a lot of opportunities to go there. It's not because he couldn't study or he couldn't do this that he came to Krishna consciousness. He came because he was genuinely interested, even at that young age, and he took up sannyas initiation. He took up by the age of, I think, 28 or 29. He took that sannyas initiation and renounced his life and served Srila Prabhupada full time in the temple, and constantly throughout his life he's been serving the Lord, and he's shown that determination and that heart. And we also touched about why Maharaj is passing away, although some people might not feel like it's the way a pure devotee should pass. They might feel like it's unjust or something like that. That's very genuine. That's a very visceral reaction that we should experience. And that's a very normal thing to experience. But we can understand that we only see the external. We don't see the full picture. We talked about how the devotee has the Lord in their heart, and they recognize that the Lord is in their heart. So wherever they go, that becomes a place of pilgrimage. And then we also talked about how it doesn't matter when a devotee leaves, because whether he leaves in the time of the sun moving to the north, the time of the path of light or the path of darkness, but he will still always achieve the Lord's abode, because that's the Lord's promise. And finally, we just touched on some points about Maharaj's mood and mission, and his determination and humility, and what we can learn from that. So I'd like to conclude the session here today. Sorry, this is not our usual Mahabharata character analysis series or one of Kunti Maharani's prayers, but we feel like it was very last minute, but it's very important to discuss this subject matter, especially when Maharaj is such a qualified and great devotee, and we have been able to experience his association this lifetime at least, if not personal. We've been able to live on the same planet as him, which is actually a very great privilege. And so there's a lot of lessons that we should learn, so we felt like we'd change the topic to this instead. Hare Krishna.
Just one point I wanted to mention, that yesterday morning I was doing a class on Shukadeva Goswami. So Shukadeva Goswami, when he was speaking Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit, so he says this, don't worry, you have 7 days to perfect your life. Yes. And he quotes a devotee called Maharaj Katwanga, King Katwanga. So he tells Parikshit Maharaj that this Maharaj Katwanga had perfected his life in one moment, fully surrendering to the Lord, by fully surrendering to the Lord. So he said to Maharaj Parikshit, you have 7 days to perfect your life. should be fine. And Prabhupada comments in those two verses that we can also perfect our life. Yes, and don't postpone this perfection for tomorrow. Yeah, one thing is guaranteed, that whatever material things we achieve, we are not going to take anything with us. There was a story Maharaj also tells that one man was like accumulating so much gold and things like that, and the saint comes and gives a needle, and I will take it. Keep the needle with you. I will take it little later. And when do you take it? I will take it in my next life. But how do I carry this to my next life? I'll not be able to carry the needle to my next life. How can you come and pick it, collect it? And the saint says, if you are unable to carry this little needle with you to next life, what about this gold and things like that? So definitely true that we will not be able to take all these material things with us, and we can still perfect our life. And how do we perfect our life? By actually by looking into the lives of pure devotees. For example, Bhakti Charu Swami, now we are talking about. We can look at his life, we can study his life, we can analyze his life, and we take some of those lessons, some of the important things what Maharaj had done. We can do some of the things. So Maharaj Parikshit perfected his life in 7 days, and we don't know how many days we have remaining. We may be thinking that we may have many more years to come, but we never know. We never know. So the lesson for me is that we should still be serious and take our guru's instruction senior and try and perfect our life before we give up this body. Thank you so much. There are so many wonderful comments today. Anuradha Mataji, thank you. Kalash Prabhu, Sheetal, our Sumadhur Radhika Mataji, Shashi Mataji, Braj Kumar Prabhu, thank you so much. And Shiva Prabhu and others we can't see. Thank you very much. And it is our, we are very happy to do this session on Maharaj. We are sad because Maharaj left us, but at the same time, we are able to glorify and take some lessons from his life. Thank you very much. So Hare Krishna, we'll stop there. Haribol.